Good evening, everyone. It's our pleasure to welcome you to the 17th Annual Global Health Night. We are your co-MCs for the evening. My name is Solen Kelgan. I'm a second-year medical student at McGill and a McCall-McBain Scholar. This past summer, I was also a global health scholar, where I had the privilege of collaborating with the Mental Health Authority in Accra, Ghana. It's a pleasure to be here with you all tonight.
And I'm Assam Swidi. I'm a second-year medical student and the Vice President of Global Health of the Medical Students Society. As a global health this past summer, I traveled to Brazil and worked on an initiative that aims to estimate healthcare utilization while managing tuberculosis disease. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
And my name is Omotayo Olaoye. I'm a fourth-year PhD candidate in epidemiology, based in the School of Population and Global Health. I'm also a Vanier scholar and pleased to be here as well.
Before we begin, I want to take a moment to acknowledge that McGill University is located on the traditional and unceded territory of the Ghanaian Nation, a place that has long served as a site of meeting and exchange among indigenous peoples, including the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe nations. In preparing this acknowledgement, I took the time to reflect on my own relationship with this land, how it has supported my pursuit for knowledge and my growth as a medical student and global health scholar. I recognize that I am an uninvited guest here, and that the land, water, and community that sustain us today continue to hold deep meaning for the Kanekehaka people. In medicine and research, we continue to see the effect of colonial systems that have marginalized indigenous voices and knowledge. This acknowledgement calls us to do more than recognize the past. It invites us to question how our own work can either perpetuate or dismantle those inequities. It reminds us of the need to center indigenous communities and knowledge, to listen with humility, and to build relationships grounded in respect and reciprocity. I am deeply grateful for the Kanekehaka Nation and to all indigenous peoples whose stewardship of this land enables us to gather, learn, and share. Nyawan, thank you.
Building on that same spirit of respect and learning, we want to take a moment to emphasize the importance of creating a welcoming and inclusive environment for everyone here tonight. We strive to create an inclusive and respectful environment for all attendees. By attending this event, you agree to be respectful in communications with presenters, panelists, and other attendees, and to refrain from acting in any manner which the organizers determine in their sole and reasonable judgment to be disruptive or inappropriate. Diverse perspectives and discussions are integral to academic discourse and can contribute to a richer understanding of complex issues.
I'd now like to give an overview of the night. We're honored to begin tonight's program with welcoming remarks from Dr. Leslie Fellows, Vice President Health Affairs, and the Dean of the Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences here at McGill University. Following Dean Fellows' remarks, Dr. Medicare Pai, Inaugural Chair of the Department of Global and Public Health, will give us an update on global health programs. Dr. Pai will then lead a recognition of lifetime achievement for two esteemed contributors to global health, Dr. Alice Benjamin and Dr. Eduardo Franco. To present these awards, Dr. Pai will be joined by Dean Fellows and Professor Robert Platt, Associate Dean and Director of the McGill School of Population and Global Health. Following that, Dr. Pai will be joined by Ms. Catherine Farmer, daughter of the late Dr. Paul Farmer, to present the inaugural Paul Farmer Award for Global Health Equity to our guest of honor, Mr. Zackie Achmat. Mr. Achmat will deliver the inaugural Paul Farmer lecture titled, Defying the Law to Realize the Right to Live. After the Paul Farmer lecture, there'll be a question and answer session with Mr. Achmat, hosted by Professor Prativa Baral and Ms. Isabel Munoz-Beaulieu. To conclude the program, Professor Robert Platt will retake the stage to deliver some closing remarks.
For those joining us online, to submit a live question to our keynote speaker during the Q&A session, please follow the link in the description below the video on YouTube. To anyone posting about this event on your social media channels, we encourage you to use the hashtag McGillJChain2025.
And now, without further ado, please welcome to the stage Dr. Leslie Fellows, Vice President, Health Affairs, and Dean of the Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences.
Good evening. We're okay with the mic? Can you hear me in the back? All right. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. I look forward to Global Health Night every year. It's amongst my favorite activities as Dean. It really is because of the, I have to say, because of the scope and the energy that is always a feature. Alors bonsoir et bienvenue à tous et à toutes. It's really a pleasure to be here for the 17th annual McGill Global Health Night. I appreciate the land acknowledgement. Thank you for making that. One of the things that I always think about during that land acknowledgement is that Montreal is an island, but it's really a place where rivers flow and mingle, and to me that's a metaphor that I find particularly attractive when I'm thinking about the work the Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences and the work that you are all doing. Tonight we celebrate the remarkable work of our students, our faculty, and partners whose dedication to advancing health equity reflects the Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences' values of excellence, collaboration, and humanism. The research and the community projects that were showcased in the student poster fair earlier today are great examples of how innovation and compassion come together to really have an impact. And that practicality is really the spirit of working together for better health, which is what our faculty strives to do. We're really thankful to our donors, whose vision and generosity make so much of this work possible. As donors, your support empowers our students to learn from real-world experiences, to pursue bold ideas, to build the skills and relationships that will shape the future of global health. I'd especially like to thank the sponsors of tonight's event, the Francis Aboud and Charles Larson Global Health Fund, the Medicine Class of 1982 Lectureship in Global Health Fund, and the over 650 donors, really a remarkable number, who contributed towards the Paul Farmer Award for Global Health Equity. I also want to thank our faculty and staff, in particular Dr. Madhukar Pai and the Global Health Programs team, for their tireless work in nurturing the vibrant community that's housed within the Department of Global and Public Health in the School of Population and Global Health, a place that is full of great ideas and long titles. The Global Health Programs Office continues to strengthen McGill's role as a hub for collaboration and impact across disciplines and across borders, work that has, one might argue, never been more important. This year's Global Health Night is especially meaningful as it features the inaugural Paul Farmer Lecture in Global Health Equity, delivered by Zackie Achmat, our first recipient of the Paul Farmer Award for Global Health Equity. Your work embodies Dr. Farmer's vision and call to action that inspires us all to align knowledge, advocacy, and compassion in pursuit of equity. Je vous souhaite à toutes et à tous une soirée inspirante et des échanges enrichissants. Thank you for being here and for your continued commitment to advancing global health and equity, both at McGill and around the world. Merci.
Thank you, Dean Fellows, for those welcoming remarks. And now I'd like to welcome to the stage Dr. Madhukar Pai, Inaugural Chair of the Department of Global and Public Health. Dr. Pai will provide an update on the initiatives of the Global Health Programs Office. Following this update, Dr. Pai will lead a recognition of lifetime achievement honoring 2 members of the McGill community who are distinguished contributors to the field of global health. Please welcome to the stage Dr. Pai.
Good evening, everyone. It's so wonderful to see such a large room, almost full. As Dean Fellows said, this is not just a regular Global Health Night. This is more than that, because this is the first year we are inaugurating the Paul Farmer Lecture and Award Series, and we have combined the two. It has a lot of meaning for me personally, as you will see later, and I'm so happy to share this special moment with all of you. What do I say about this year, honestly? I feel like a little tugboat in a storm. Global health has never been under this level of stress. I felt the same level of despair that I feel now during the peak of the COVID pandemic. A sense of helplessness about what's happening, not knowing what to do. But honestly, I would prefer to fight a virus, because I at least know what to do. This stuff is just complete madness. I mean, the amount of populism, nationalism, erosion of democracy and human rights, it's just absolutely frightening. The aid cuts, which I'm very sad to see, Canada also joined 2 days ago with our budget, is predicted to take 25 million lives. And 25 million lives, excess deaths, ironically, is what probably the world lost to COVID-19. And I understand losing 25 million people to a virus. I'm not understanding this. This is completely unnecessary. This is human-made, and we have to do better as a population. The attacks on science, I mean, I've never seen scientists wanting to be refugees and flee countries. I don't know what that means, science refugees. And that's where we are. Those of us working in public health, anti-vaccine, climate denial. How do you deny climate change in the year 2025, even as the 1.5 Celsius target is completely gone? We're not even going to dream of doing anything about it. We're talking about 2 Celsius warming, 3 Celsius warming. This is catastrophic in every way possible. And the broligarchy, which we are seeing, destroy the edifice of everything that we believed in. So global health and development today is on life support. What can come out of its ashes, I think it's up for us to determine. But one thing's for sure, I don't think we can even dream of backing off global solidarity. There is no question of us giving up. In fact, I wrote a piece in about March of this year. I asked the question, what would Paul Farmer have told us if he was alive? And so I got quotes from scores of people, including D.D. Bertrand Farmer. And what was resounding in that piece, published in Forbes, was everybody said, Paul would have said, you have no business giving up on behalf of other people who don't have much privilege. If they give up, we understand, but you have no business giving up, meaning we have no business giving up on all the things that we cherish and value. So as far as we are concerned here at McGill, we are actually doubling down on global health. We are not backing off even for a second. Unless something catastrophic happens here, we're going to stay the course. If anything, we want to do even more. And I don't think I can give you a stronger example of our commitment to global health than the launch of a bachelor's degree in global health. Open for admission. Scores of people have already applied. And big shout out to Elena Adams, Lucy, Enoch, and a whole bunch of people who worked on this for 5 years to bring this baby to birth. And we have a long ways to go, but you can imagine the young people who will join this program at a time of cataclysmic changes in our entire architecture of global health. How do we teach them global solidarity when our own leaders are failing to walk that path, right? I think it's even more important that we double down on global health. And Zackie, when he came and met me for the first time, the first thing he asked me was, what about your students? How are they? I said, our students are not the problem. Our leaders are the problem, right? Our students are amazing, and they have the heart in the right place. They know what they're doing. Take a look at some of the pictures from all of the courses that we are now offering. We now have global health courses at the 200 level, 500 level, 600 level, medical students. We have courses for interprofessional, allied health sciences. You name it, we have courses everywhere in global health. And this is only going to get better when the BA degree takes off. We will have a whole series of core courses plus electives, and we are dreaming of further degrees that we can offer. We are not at all doubling down. This is evidence for you that our students absolutely have their heart in the right place. They care about global solidarity. They want to make a difference in this world. So we ain't giving up. The Global Health Scholars Program continues to be our flagship. Every year, last year we got 159 applications from our undergrads, and we could only support 31 of them. And we are hoping to raise more money so that we can continue to and all the posters you saw, huge shout out to all of the people, students who did the posters. All of them are awardees and are global health scholars. They all do amazing research all over the world, locally, nationally, and globally, and we're very proud of all your work. Our Summer Institute is going absolutely on steroids. We had 1,500 participants last year from all over the world, and that number makes me so proud. 70% of our Summer Institute participants are from low and middle income countries. Now, you would find it very hard-pressed to find a global North university that does this much to become accessible to folks in the global South. And we have so excited that next year we will have 18 courses on offer on everything from vaccinology to digital health, you name it. And we hope to grow this so that one day we can come up with stackable certificates and other ways to make this more meaningful along the lines of the data science certificate that we just launched in our school. This is a huge new addition to our portfolio. We are very, very proud to be part of the Inkaboom Collaborative. Just got funded and launched under the support from MasterCard Foundation. McGill is partnering with 6 Ghanaian universities, and many of them are actually here right now this week. The entire delegation from Ghana is visiting us. That's a picture of all of them here. If there are anyone here from our Ghanaian delegation, would you please stand up so that we can give you a welcome and an applause? And a big shout out to Dr. Charles Larson, Maria, Tasha, and so many people who have silently set, all of the people who worked very hard for almost 5 years. Is that right, Maria? 5 years to bring this to birth. I don't know what is it about 5 years. Everything at McGill takes 5 years, right? So if you want to have a baby, it'll take 5 years. Everything here takes time. But when it takes off, we really take off, right? We have this initial inertia, but then once we take off, it's amazing to see what we can do. So we will be receiving postdoc fellows, early career researchers, Summer Institute participants, data science certificate grads, all from multiple Ghanaian universities. Very, very happy to welcome all of them. We continue to partner with our sister groups such as MI4. Shout out to MI4 folks in the room. We gave away multiple seed grants. Many of the seed grantees are in the room. And we continue to fund them because we believe seed grants are a great way of igniting new interdisciplinary research that can potentially lead to larger grants downstream. We just recognized 2 early career researchers here in our university with the Donald Henderson Prize for Outstanding Global Health Research based on their publication. First award went to Dr. Samira Rahimi. Samira, if you are in the room, can you please applaud her, please? For her publication on ED-AI framework for integrating equity, diversity, and inclusion to the life cycle of AI to improve health. Our second awardee is Ugochi Vivian Uka for her publication on fecundability in association with everyday lifetime discrimination. Congratulations, Samira and Ugochi. We're very proud of your work. And we, as you just saw downstairs, we supported 63 young students in the various award categories: Global Health Scholars undergraduates, then we have Global Health Travel Awards, we have Outreach Projects Leaders, and Global and Local Community Awards. And all of them received their certificates today, and we saw their posters as well. If you can all stand up if you received an award from GHP, we would love to applaud you for your work. As you can see, there are so many that we cannot possibly bring you up one by one, but we absolutely love the work you're doing, and we hope that this experience would allow you to think about careers in public health, global health, population health, medicine, as you go through your career. And as Dean Fellows already said, we have so many donors to thank for. Anyone here from University Advancement, Manly, Seth, all of you have helped us to get here. This isn't any one person's work. It's several years of support from UA to get here. So we are super grateful to all of you. Now it's a great pleasure for me to honor two amazing senior colleagues for their lifetime achievement. Last year, we honored Professor Charles Larson and Professor Kate Hankins, and we were so happy with that we decided to make it an annual feature. So it will be part of Global Health Night in the years to come. First, I would love to invite Dean Fellows to come up here, and she will give away the award to Professor Benjamin. So I'll say a little bit about Dr. Alice Benjamin, and then I'll invite her to come up here. Dr. Alice Benjamin did her medical training in India, and then she came to McGill, I think 50 years ago, she told me. And since then, for 50 years, she has probably delivered 10,000 babies. I'm not joking, okay? And one of the babies she delivered is mine, and she's sitting right there. She's a 17-year-old sassy kid now, so not a baby anymore. Way too sassy, if you ask me. But we are so proud of Dr. Benjamin, not only for the number of people who she has personally looked after. I think she's delivered the granddaughters of the women that she delivered. So it's like generations have benefited from her support, but also her commitment to global health. So in her name, we now have the Dr. Alice Benjamin Global Health Fund. And colleagues like Andrew and others are working in Rwanda, supporting OBGYN training. Our residents and fellows are going there. And we also have global health scholars supported by this initiative. Dr. Benjamin, you are a McGill's treasure, and it's an honor to have you come up and receive this award. The second award, it's a great pleasure to invite Dr. Robert Platt to come up here and present the award to Professor Eduardo Franco. So Eduardo is originally a physician from Brazil. And again, like Alice, he came to McGill, and he's been here with us for many, many years. He's a distinguished James McGill professor in the departments of oncology, epi, biostats, served as a chair of oncology for many, many years, director of cancer epi, and was also the interim director of our school. We gave him a lot of grief during those 6 months. I'm sure he's delighted to be done with us. He's internationally known for his work on HPV and cervical cancer epidemiology and cervical cancer vaccinology, has mentored 99 graduate students, recipient of numerous awards, including Officer of the Order of Canada, and he continues to support the university with his work. Eduardo, please come up to receive your award for a lifetime achievement in global oncology. So before I conclude my State of the Union address, I have to thank a lot of people. As you can see, an event of this size year after year cannot be done by me. I have a whole team to thank for, and they are all listed on the screen. The entire DGPH team. In fact, Kevin, are you around? Kevin is the manager of Global Health Programs. Tasha, Stephanie, Jesse, we have Jonathan, we have Enoch, we have the entire team, Guadalupe. All of them have worked tirelessly to make this event possible. I'm very grateful to the entire SPGH leadership team, my fellow chairs. I saw Emily today. I saw Robert is here. I'm not sure if Jose is here or not. But thank you for all the support, and for the advisory council. Some of our advisory council members are here. Ambassador Luis Blaise, Tegest, Charles, so many of our supporters are in the room, and we are very grateful to all of you. So now, I just want to introduce the Paul Farmer lectureship and award and tell you a little bit about how it came about. So Paul received an honorary doctorate from McGill some years ago. He gave the first Victor Zhao lecture that we all remember, and I was the one on stage interviewing him. I was terrified of engaging with Paul one-on-one for 1 hour, but I survived. Paul kind of was an informal mentor for me. He wrote letters of reference for me. I still have his text messages on my phone, and I'm so sad that he isn't here. If anything, the world desperately needs a Paul. I can assure you the world needs more Pauls. And I still remember I wrote a piece after he died as a tribute, where I interviewed, 25 people that Paul has mentored or worked with. And there are so many lessons that one could learn from Paul, and the article kind of lists all of them. But a quote that I keep on thinking about, which is in fact inscribed on our banner here, is this one. I think Paul's entire life's work, and if you wish, Partners in Health, shout out to all the PIH folks in the room, it was all to prove that you don't give up on some people because of who they are or where they live. And he modeled this in every aspect of his life. If any of you have seen the film Bending the Arc, and which I screen in my global health classes, it is so important to understand this as a global health student or a professional. We were discussing Paul earlier today and yesterday. When he was working in Haiti, they told him, don't get into treating HIV. It's simply not going to be cost effective. It's not going to work. He said, no, they're humans, and if they have HIV, they deserve to be treated. End of discussion. They told him, don't treat drug-resistant TB in Peru. He said, no, we don't give up on them just because they're Peruvians. What would we have done in Boston? That's exactly what we should be doing in Peru. So consistently, he found ways to push back that somehow we should set a low bar for some people and a high bar for ourselves. He actually had a term for it. He called it socialization of scarcity on behalf of others. And it's a powerful, powerful lesson for all of us. And he was also, this is the title of the article that I wrote, he called it Countering Failures of the Imagination. If you can't even imagine that ARVs can reach all people, then you will not deliver it. So he said the biggest problem for all of us in global health is that our imagination itself is set low. I'll give you a contemporary example of the imagination that failed us. We could not imagine vaccinating the entire world's population for COVID-19. We could successfully vaccinate ourselves in the global north, and we found a way to hoard vaccines, but we failed as humankind on equity. COVID vaccine inequity will go down in history as one of the most egregious examples where we allowed people to die when we could have done better. I think Paul would have said that's a failure of imagination. If we had imagined it's possible to vaccinate however billion people there are on the planet, we could have made it happen. The cost would have been trivial compared to the deaths that we saw, and the cost would have been trivial compared to the economic losses that we've endured, and just the destruction that COVID-19 caused to the whole world and the trauma that we've all suffered is a great example. We could have easily put the money down on the table and just gotten the job done. So this award was my way of honoring Paul's memory. So I told colleagues like Kate and Charles and Tim and others, said, why don't we all put some of our own money down, and we pull the money and then we raise more money. And then we took permission from Dee Farmer, and she said, yes, we would love for you to do this award. That's how more than 800 people have donated, Mark Brender, and we all pooled money, crowdsourced it, and created this award. So this isn't a McGill award, this is a global award. And our goal in terms of what we wanted to do was, we didn't want to honor academics. Not because I think academics are not good, I'm an academic myself. We really wanted to go find those gems, people who are tirelessly working in underserved communities that would rarely get any recognition in the world, and anyone who has meaningfully improved health equity on the ground is our Paul Farmer awardee. Now, Paul isn't here to tell me whether he would have liked this or not, but I have a feeling Paul would have enjoyed any award with global health equity in the title. Paul hated the term global health. Global health equity, he totally got. And I think this is our tribute to the late, amazing Paul Farmer. And we have an international nomination process. First year, we got 70 amazing nominees. We had the hardest time picking a winner. We did pick a winner. This year, again, we had lots of nominations. We now have a 2-round process of selection. We have an international jury for the selection. And after all of that, we managed to find winners for the last 2 years, and the first winner is with us. And to introduce the first winner, we now invite Catherine Bertrand Farmer to come up here. Catherine graduated from Duke in 2019. She's an oral historian. She documents stories of displacement, trauma, resistance, and justice across the United States, Rwanda, Haiti, and South Africa. We are so happy to have you here, Catherine. Thank you so much for coming and for making this a special occasion.
Thank you so much to Madhu and the McGill team for making this such a warm welcome. And I absolutely agree that although Dad would be quite shy about having an award named after him, he would have loved the global health equity element. So thank you for creating this. Good evening, everyone. It is a huge privilege to introduce the inaugural recipient of the Paul Farmer Award for Global Health Equity, Mr. Zackie Achmat. This award was created by McGill University and hundreds of donors around the world to honor individuals whose work embodies my father's lifelong commitment to health as a human right, recognizing leaders who combine rigorous analysis, moral courage, and deep solidarity with those most affected by inequity. Zackie Achmat's life and work reflect these ideals in the most powerful ways. A lifelong activist, Zackie joined South Africa's struggle against apartheid as a teenager during the 1976 student uprising. Detained without trial, he continued to fight for justice as a part of the underground African National Congress, helping to organize youth, workers, and civic movements. After being diagnosed with HIV in 1990, Zackie turned his own experience into a movement for change. He helped found the AIDS Law Project, the National Coalition for Gay and Lesbian Equality, and later the Treatment Action Campaign, a movement that transformed access to life-saving HIV treatment in South Africa and inspired global action. Through his trailblazing work on improving access to medicines for people living with HIV, Zackie Achmat bent the arc of history for global health equity. In recognizing Zackie with the Paul Farmer Award for Global Health Equity, McGill celebrates a visionary leader whose life reminds us that health and justice are inseparable, and that lasting change begins when we act in solidarity with those who are excluded. Please join me in welcoming Zackie, the inaugural Paul Farmer Award recipient, to deliver the first Paul Farmer Lecture in Global Health Equity.
So, can you hear me? Yes, you can. If you saw me close up today, you would notice that I look like a human unicorn. And that is for a very simple reason. I competed against a friend to get as many steps in as possible. I'm leading him by 100,000 over 6 weeks. But this week he's leading me by 10,000. So I decided I was going to go to the treadmill because I got up late this morning. And what I did was jump out of a lift, ran 2 meters so fast into a glass door. It knocked me out. So I'm feeling mildly concussed. So if I ramble too much, just remember that that is what happened. Madhu, Professor Fellows and friends, but mostly the students I met last night and today. Thank you for having me and for letting me know the fear you have and what pushes that fear and how you're locked up by that fear and how you fear the inability to combine and to express solidarity because of the enormous weight of fascism or growing fascism and populism in our societies, the failure of all our institutions. So I want to say thank you to every one of those students who I spoke to over the last 2 days. Now, some of what I'm going to say is a little bit self-referential, but perhaps it is important to start somewhere. And the place I want to start is on Tuesday, 16th October in the year 2000. Jack Lewis and I are sweating at Bangkok International Airport, looking like we have just stepped fully clothed out of a shower. It isn't the suffocating heat that drenched us in sweat. Tourists with any amount of drugs on their person while leaving that country could end up spending many years in some of the worst prisons in the world. We are drug smugglers of a special kind. Fear pushes sweat out of every pore. If the Thai police discovered 3,000 capsules of generic fluconazole in my bag, they will assume that we are smuggling drugs illicitly. The customs queue is filled with complaining tourists. You know, the most irritating thing is people complaining in airline queues. It's the most irritating thing, particularly Americans. Right? So you have these police dogs armed with the most powerful sense of smell, walking, marching up and down, trying to catch us. We weren't caught, because I don't think their noses are trained to smell generic fluconazole. Right? Fear was there. Fear in my heart, fear of ending up in a jail. But what helped me escape that fear? My thoughts are far away, back home in Cape Town, where a widow and her children had watched a husband and father choked to death. His body wasting away because food could not pass through his esophagus. That man was my comrade, Christopher Moraka. We passed the Thai customs police without even being noticed. I had gone to Thailand as a volunteer for the Treatment Action Campaign to openly bring generic fluconazole into the country. We were preparing to have 300 volunteers, nurses and doctors, people living with HIV, to go into that country and to bring generic fluconazole into South Africa. And why was this? That Pfizer at that time, the largest and most profitable drug company, was selling I have to refer to my notes, was selling fluconazole at double the price, at double the wages, the median income of a household in South Africa. And that meant that hundreds of thousands of people in South Africa and across the globe would die of cryptococcal meningitis, they would die of esophageal candidiasis, and any number of other associated types of thrush and so on. What that meant for all of us was to do something. On arrival back in South Africa, it wasn't Pfizer that went after us. It was our Ministry of Health, the tax authorities, and the Medicines Control Council on behalf of Pfizer. It was called a flagrant abuse of the rule of law and a defiance of patent law. Of course it was a defiance of patent law. Now, what was the context of all this? Our constitutional court followed the government in describing HIV as an incomprehensible calamity. An incomprehensible calamity, because 12% of our people were living with HIV at the time. Now it's slightly more, but the rate of infection has subsided. At that time, we were facing the horror of having 600 deaths a day. 600 deaths a day. And that is probably an underestimation. We had more deaths of people in their 20s, young women in their 20s, and men in their 30s, than we had of people who were 70, 80, 90, and so on. The life expectancy plunged to a 54-year average. But if you subtracted the people who didn't have HIV, and if you subtracted the very rich and wealthy, the white population, the Indian population, if you subtracted all that, for working class people, the life expectancy would be much, much less. So that was the context in which we operated. The Treatment Action Campaign was born out of grief. It was born out of anger, and it was born out of love. And we lived in a situation where essentially funeral cycles determined what people did over weekends, and the carrying of small coffins and big coffins, and parents burying their children. And that parent could be 90, or that parent could be in their 30s. And so that was, for me, the basis of all of us who formed the Treatment Action Campaign. Who here is under 22? Excellent. This T-shirt is older than you. And this T-shirt, literally, sometimes I feel as if it's drenched in blood and tears and sweat. But it's also drenched with the sweat of people who saved lives. And that is the important thing for me. Now, who was Christopher Moraka? He was an unemployed man who gave evidence before our parliament on May 10th, 2000. And I'll quickly read you his words. I'll speak my own language. I'm HIV positive. I was diagnosed in 1996. In my community, we with HIV are abused. I went to Crossroads Day Hospital with a rash. The doctor told me to inform them that I'm on a TB trial. I showed them my card. I also disclosed to them that I'm HIV positive. At the day hospital, I was told never to disclose again. You will be isolated from other people, they said. And then he continues and he said, let me turn to pharmaceutical companies. Companies like Pfizer make a lot of profit. In 1999, he says, Pfizer made 6.5 billion rands profit from fluconazole alone. I can't remember what they called it, their brand name for it. What was it? Anyway, they made 6.5 billion rand profit. We asked them to lower the price of the drug because we HIV positive people suffer the most. Other people don't feel this pain. They want to make profit, you see. So what was the languages that Christopher used? Of course it was isiXhosa. And suddenly Parliament was falling all over itself to find people to translate for people like me who couldn't speak it, but particularly for the drug company executives who were present, Mariana Dieb and Vicky Ehrlich. That was one language he spoke. The other language he spoke was about fundamental rights. He spoke about the right to life as against the abuse of patents and the right to profit. He spoke from experience as a person living with HIV. But he also brought facts before a parliamentary committee. Facts that are normally brought by people like me, NGO specialists, experts, and the clever ones. And sadly, Parliament didn't record his name. They said, one man talked. One man talked, and that is the title of tonight's lecture. One man talked. That one man his name was to be known by activists across the world, activists, not the broader community, and specifically HIV activists. Treatment activists came to know his name. When the Durban conference happened in 2000, and people from all over the world descended on South Africa, clinicians, nurses, epidemiologists, virologists, immunologists, pharmacologists, together with the bands of drug companies, we organized a march of 5,000 people. Christopher's wife, Nontsikelelo, was on the march, but he was sick. He couldn't attend. What happens next? What happens next is at that, for a whole year we prepared, but at that gathering, we issued a challenge to Pfizer. And that challenge was bring down the prices to 4 rand a pill. That would be a few cents instead of a few dollars. Or we are going to defy your patent. Now, how did we learn? How did I learn about patents? Patents is for anyone here who studies law or who is a practicing lawyer. We're very lucky to have none. Right? Vladimir Lenin said, lawyers are the scum of the earth, and we should only ever use the best ones. Right? But let's leave that aside. That's for another discussion. It's always important for an activist to know more law than the lawyer. If you don't, you are going to be bamboozled, and your power is taken away from you. So, do you know what a haversack is? Who here knows what a haversack is? It's a little bag you carry on your back, right? So in August 1999, I was, like usual, in bed, depressed, miserable, and so on. And up comes, on the stairs of my house with Jack in Muizenberg, comes a haversack with a little man. Man is this short. He has blue eyes, and he looks like Billy Bronco or one of those things in a Clint Eastwood movie. But the haversack brings him. And his name is Dr. Eric Coumer from Médecins Sans Frontières. And he comes in, he says to me, the first thing is he wanted to know how my health was. And I explained to him that I had systemic thrush, and I nearly died, but that my life was saved by Jack Lewis, who bought me the medicine. I wouldn't personally have been able to afford it. And he drags out of his bag a purple, my favorite color, a purple box of Biazole from Thailand. And that cost a fraction, less than 200 Rand. How many dollars is that, Loring? Yeah, about $10, right? Gets it out of his bag instead of 3,000 Rand. And he says, this is produced in Thailand. It's a generic version. And he says to me, have you heard of TRIPS? And I thought, is this a new medicine? And no, he says, it's the trade-related intellectual property treaty of the World Trade Organization. As a socialist, I knew what the World Trade Organization was, but I didn't know that it was actually one of the greatest obstacles to access to medicines, the World Trade Organization and the TRIPS Treaty. Although, if we read it carefully, the exemptions without any declaration from Doha makes it possible for governments to act. But why don't governments act? Because Bill Clinton put South Africa on a sanctions watch list when we tried to make medicines affordable. I will never forgive him. He's doing some good work now, but not for that. South Africa, it took the United States 40 years to put the apartheid government on a sanctions watch list. But it took Bill Clinton 4 years to put the government of Nelson Mandela on a sanctions watch list at the behest of the pharmaceutical industry. I'm preaching. You know, an activist must never take themselves too seriously. So yes, the important question then was for us, as the Durban conference closed, what were we going to do? We prepared doctors, Médecins Sans Frontières. I've got 10 minutes left. I'm going to try and go through rapidly. What happened then? We prepared. We had doctors, allies, but the campaign had unfolded over a whole year. From September 1999 with the International Lesbian Gay Association Conference in Johannesburg, where we met activists from most countries, and they joined us in a picket at the Pharmaceutical Manufacturers Association. The next year, the International Confederation of Trade Unions held their conference in South Africa, and we brought them on board. The religious organizations came, but most importantly, The people who made this possible were the poorest people living in shacks. The poorest people who don't have a toilet in their home and have to go to the bush or to a communal toilet. Those are the people who made it possible, who got to understand science, who got to understand pharmacology and virology and immunology. I'm sure there are immunologists and virologists present, or people who know about it at least. And these scientists got so excited when you have someone from a township wanting to see how a CD4 count is measured on a machine that spins. And normally people sit by themselves. So the building of alliances with scientists, with clinicians, with everyone, and basing our knowledge on science was indispensable, and making sure that the poorest people understood science. Middle-class people don't understand science either. That's why we have anti-vax movements. Upper-class twits of the year, as Private Eye in Britain would say, spreading misinformation everywhere. And I think perhaps at another point, a discussion on how we overcame HIV denialism. A president going to war against his own people and saying HIV does not cause AIDS and antiretrovirals kill. And letting hundreds of thousands of people dying, and on top of that, millions of people becoming infected. So, I'm preaching again. What then happens is Christopher dies on the 27th of July. And it then became clear we had to break Pfize's law, Pfizer's patent. We had to break it. And that is exactly what we did. We broke it because the right to life, the right to dignity, the right to health and equality is indispensable and should not, inviolable, and should not ever be subjected to profit. Should not be. We had millions of people, not millions, I'm a Trotskyist, I love exaggerating. Right? We had thousands of people saying to us, yes, but there will be no research and development. And yet, simply by us understanding economies of scale, that if you treat 30 million people, you will still make profit. And they still make profit, right? So breaking their patent was both moral, it was legal, it was just, and it was the only thing to do. It was the only thing to do. And what was the consequence of that? 39 global pharmaceutical companies took the South African government to court with Bill Clinton's backing to try and stop the legislation that would require generic substitution for off-patent medicines, that would require parallel importation. That's for people who are not yet familiar with it. It means that if a drug company charges $150 for Wegovy, as Trump has negotiated, thank you, Donald, and in the United States, and they charge $1,000 for it elsewhere, we can import it from the United States instead of paying the $1,000 in our country. And the drug companies took us to court. And the global mobilization that followed on that, because of what had happened with fluconazole, and the fact that in every part of the country it got known. Every part of the world where there were activists, it became known. When we organized fluconazole, we campaigned in 17 countries. When the drug companies, when TAC decided to join government in defense of our legislation, 140 countries, activists in 140 countries helped us. So internationalism is indispensable, and you who are under 22, younger than this T-shirt, you have to carry it forward. We can only help you. We can only help you. Now, what happened with the fluconazole? The head of the Medicines Control Council, a really good person called Professor Helen Rees, some people might know her, said that I had committed a crime. But within a couple of weeks, they had to withdraw that statement and give us an exemption to bring fluconazole into the country. So from the government opposing us, the government was breaking the patent and we were just simply benefiting from it. The next thing we did was Médecins Sans Frontières was treating people while the government wasn't. And we imported Eluan, Santos Filho from Veracruz in Brazil. We met her and she said, we can't export these medicines to you, but we can give it to MSF, and MSF can give it to you. And we then defied the patents of GlaxoSmithKline, Boehringer Ingelheim, and so on, by bringing in medicines from Brazil, while Brazil was under attack from the United States for making ARVs available. By the end of 2001, Dr. Yusuf Hamid from CIPLA announced that people could be treated at $350 a year. That time, the pressure was so intense that at Doha in November 2001, the WTO said that countries could use compulsory licensing, parallel importation. They were basically restating what was in TRIPS already. But that opened the way for countries to do it with some cover. And where did it start? It started with people like Christopher Muraka. I'm going to conclude on this. I met Paul Farmer once, and I got to shiver down my spine because he was a presence, but mostly the knowledge he imparted and the practice of medicine was what drove my understanding of the man. And Catherine, you have lost a father, but having lost a father, you also have gained in all of us people who are prepared to support you because of the great work that your dad has done. Tegest is here, and Catherine Hankins is here. Tegest Germa, who was in the WHO, and she was in UNAIDS. And they were great supporters against our government. There are a whole bunch of Canadians to thank. Stephen Lewis. Can I take 3 minutes more? Stephen Lewis, who the health minister banned him from meeting with us and meeting with me specifically. He pulled up in his official car outside my house and said, "Come, I'm going to give you a lift." And we had our meeting in his car because it wasn't a meeting. He was just simply giving me a lift. And then he said, "I'll give you a lift back home." Right? There was James Obinsky, who was the head of MSF International. And as I said to some other people, I had to go and do the performing monkey thing at somewhere in Europe, and he was there. And yes, I fell in love because he was so beautiful. But there was him. There's Richard Fung, Tim McGaskill, John Grayson, so many Canadians who stood with us. Tonight here I have my friend Loring McAlpin, who gave me that when I was freezing in New York. He gave me this. This is now more than 20 years, almost 30 years old. And I still wear it, right? And it's those little forms of solidarity internationally that we need today, more than ever. We need internationalism. We need to assist people in the United States facing a grave danger. Trump has put 20 million people on death row, people living with HIV. But those aren't the only people who will die. He's cut maternal and child health care. He's cut environmental programs. He's cut a range of programs. It is our duty to express solidarity with the people who will lose Medicaid and people who will lose education and food and so on in the United States. It's our duty to stand with our activists in the United States and the people in the United States as democracy is being shut down in every way possible. So every one of us here have that duty. And as I said yesterday, when Trump invades, we will come with our battalion to help Canada. Right? But having said that, I also want to say that it is important from people from North America, and Paul understood this, and Europe, that when you come to our homes, you don't first open your computer and start typing what we say. You greet and you listen. It was a perfect pleasure to manage imperialism from allies. I always used to say to people, we have to manage imperialism from our allies. And you can do that. You can lead on that. I'm not someone who believes in intersectionality. I believe in indivisibility. That all of us are one, and all the identities we carry are within ourselves. They're not separated. They're not at crossroads. They are present all the time. When I speak to you about injustice and inequality, I don't speak to you as someone living with HIV, or someone who's queer, or someone who's black or brown, or someone who had enslaved ancestors, or someone who has lived with mental health problems for almost 60 years. That is not the identities I speak from. I speak from all of them at the same time. And it is my duty, as it is your duty, to deal with injustice. It is the duty of men to speak from a feminist perspective and to listen to women first and foremost, and to follow the voices of the oppressed, but to raise our voice in support of them. So I'm lecturing, I'm making a noise, I'm hectoring, and all of these things. I want to say to Madhu and to the people who selected me, thank you very much. I want to ask Mark, you know, Mark, I've been to Toronto before, and it is boring compared to Montreal. Right? And I was thinking, maybe I should stay here a few days, because a few more days, because I really want to talk to those young people I met, and to the faculty I met. So, thank you very much. I'm done, but not yet.
Thank you, Mr. Achmat, for delivering, Zackie, Mr. Zackie, for delivering such a thoughtful, insightful, and frankly inspiring story about your advocacy. We will now transition into a moderated question and answer session with our keynote speaker, Zackie. And I would like to welcome as well to the stage Professor Pratibha Baral and Ms. Isabelle Munoz-Beaulieu, who will moderate the Q&A. Professor Baral is an assistant professor in the Department of Global and Public Health, and Ms. Isabelle Munoz-Beaulieu is a PhD candidate in the Department of Family Medicine. Please welcome Prof. Baral and Ms. Munoz-Beaulieu.
Thank you so much. Zackie, thank you so much for your clarity, your candor, for your urgency, and also for your optimism. I feel like we all needed that with everything that's happened this past year and beyond. So I'll invite members of our audience. I'm sure we have many, many questions for Zackie to present yourself to the microphones that are located over there. And also for those of you who are joining online, there's a form that you can click, and Isabel will be monitoring that as well. And while you do that and get to the microphone, I will take advantage of the fact that I'm a co-moderator and ask the first question. So as you know, Zackie, a lot of the people that you're speaking to today are members of the academic community. You talked about little forms of solidarity. And I'd be curious to get your thoughts on how you would recommend the academic community to take on more forms of solidarity in this era of distrust and disinformation and anti-science that we're seeing today.
Let's first talk about science. Basic science research is absolutely essential. And to work in a lab by yourself is a very lonely thing. But if you can connect that basic science to a movement, to educating people in communities, that science means something. And that is the type of scientists we had in South Africa during the HIV epidemic. And that resource that came up was profound in assisting us during COVID. The infectious disease experts, the people on TB, the people who worked on malaria, the people who worked on HIV. They played a critical role in connecting to communities to assist us to understand their work and what it meant for the broader community. During the apartheid period, academics played a critical role in recovering history. There's a woman called Shula Marx. She opened up the continent of African working class history, women's history. She didn't do enough queer work. I think she left that to Graham and me. But ultimately, the academics of that time, of course not all, they were a minority, but they connected themselves to activists, and they were activists themselves in their scholarship. They didn't sacrifice rigor. They didn't sacrifice understanding how to develop historical methodology, sociology, politics, and so on. So I really believe that academics who hide, institutions that hide from truth, help in the destruction of justice. So an academic who does not do their work with people in mind, with humility, assists in the destruction of justice.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Prativa, and thank you so much, Zackie, for sharing your stories, for allowing us to listen. I do have a question online, and I also have a question myself. They're both similar, so I'll combine them in one. But someone online wants to ask you that given the grim context that we're living in, as described by you, as described by Dr. Pai, the erosion of democracy, aid cuts, attacks on science, what gives you hope? And if I may add, we've talked about the mistrust in our institutions, in our governments, and you've recently engaged in politics, even in elections in South Africa. So I
lost very badly.
We don't have to talk about that.
Oh,
but
we do.
But I do want to ask you, what gives you hope in politics as a tool for change, especially given the recent context and the growing mistrust?
I want to say a few things about that, so excuse me if I ramble. First and foremost is the fact that democracy is nearly dead. Representative democracy is definitely dead. except in New York. All those from New York, put up your hands and clap for Zohran. Right? We have all lost trust in representative democracy because of the connection between politics and money, because of the disconnect between elites and people, between the needs of people not being met, the growing inequality, the power of corporations. All those things have taken away the possibility of representation. But democracy is so much more than representation. We discussed this morning what it is. Democracy is about rights, fundamental rights. To counter majoritarianism. That is what rights are about. And rights don't need to be encoded. They don't need to be in a constitution or a charter. The right not to be tortured was won without a charter. It was put into a charter later. So rights is the first thing. The second is deliberation, deliberative democracy, the ability for us to engage with each other in respectful ways. And by the way, I love disruptions. Disruptions are welcome, as long as we are able to turn it into a conversation that takes us forward, as long as we don't use it to cause pain, but we do it in the cause of justice. So deliberation is a very, very important part of our lives and should be an important part of democracy. But it doesn't happen. It certainly doesn't happen on an informed basis. So deliberative democracy is absent from our lives. And it is your duty to take it back and to bring it back, to bring it into your faculty, to take it to your mum's table, to take it to your church if you're not an atheist like me, to deal in different ways, to use it to lift our knowledge. The third is participatory democracy, being prepared to put your voice on the line, being prepared to give up your degree because you're speaking out, being prepared to go to jail like Alaa Abdel Fattah in Egypt because of dictatorships. Those are the critical things. Participating, and participating doesn't simply mean protesting. It means doing the humdrum work of bringing evidence, of getting people to understand what laws are obstacles. I get so frustrated when people talk about human rights laws and the rights of women and the rights of children enshrined in international law. It's so bloody boring. Because the real laws that are obstacles to fundamental rights is the law of contract, the law of property, the law of investment and pensions and insurance. And here we sitting fetishizing international treaties on rights. But they're blinding us. They're important, don't get me wrong, they're important. But to implement them, we have to look at other laws, intellectual property laws. So participation means following deliberation and understanding those rules, bringing that into communities, bringing that into your church club. This morning, some of this, I don't know if it was among the faculty who asked me about the difficulty in working under repressive conditions where you have patriarchy, you have military dictatorships and so on, and said, but can we do something about it? And I remembered suddenly that under apartheid, many of the people met underground through burial, what are they called, Graham? Burial societies. And then there's a thing called stokvel, which is people, it's like a co-op, a savings co-op. That's where people met. Then, of course, there was the Methodist women and Anglican women's group with their red things, and as an atheist, I was very irritated when I saw those people. Of course, I grew up. And they played a critical role. So being able to reach out there with scientific messages is to bring democracy to a different level. The last and most irritating is representative democracy. We can't do without it, but it is not the most important. And yet we all attach ourselves to parliamentary democracy, to representative democracy, as if our lives depended on it every 5 years. The truth is, that is an empty concept of democracy. And we need to enrich it. I'm going on. You need to stop me. You're the moderators.
Thanks, Zackie. We're good on time. We have 5 more minutes, and I see that we have someone, Shashika, with a question. Go ahead, Shashika.
I'm going to break the ice on this mic, so I invite everybody to come ask questions. Zackie, we have chatted a lot in the past couple of days. I just want to ask, because I know there is joy in resistance and activism. I've experienced this myself, and I just want to, and I know in your work you have also embodied that. So can you speak to a bit on that, and how can we incorporate joy in resistance? Yeah?
Okay. Well, first, Madhu, I'm disappointed that your undergraduate degree does not include the literature and poetry and fun things. It's got where?
It's part of the arts program. They can take all courses that they want.
No, it needs to be central. It needs to be central, right? If you don't do your activism for yourself, first and foremost, if you don't do your activism so that you can sleep well at night, then you're doing the right thing for the wrong reason. It is critical that activism comes from our conscience and as a way to be human, to try to be human. We're not good or bad, we try to be good, and we do bad things. So every day is a day in which our life must reflect on the ethics that push us forward. Joy, for me, there's a very important right that no one talks about very often. The right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Right? The pursuit of happiness. We're never going to be happy. We're always going to chase after it. And that chase is a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. And by the way, I don't believe in hope. I do not believe, I believe in hope. Maybe someone will get a good husband or a good wife or a good what spouse and so on. You can see here my age, right? Don't cancel me yet. Right? But hope is good for that. Hope can be a hoax in politics when it disempowers people. When it disempowers people. We hope that we're going to go to heaven. What is important for me is resolve. Making sure that you know that you fear. And escaping that fear. The resolve to escape your personal fear and to work in solidarity with others. Sorry, I'm being too provocative?
Not at all. This
All
is
right.
beautiful. Thank you. We have 1 minute left, so please go ahead with your question.
Hi, I'm Nikki Pai. Zackie, I needed an IV infusion of optimism in this, in this dull and dark age. Thank you for bringing that back. As an academic, if I work too much on innovations, they say your job is to just publish papers. You're not supposed to do too much. I think that there has to be a fundamental revisiting of what academics should do. So do you have any advice for us as academics? What more can we do with our lives than publishing papers? And it's great, it's important to publish papers, it's important to advise bodies, but that alone doesn't change, as your life's work has shown, that going out in the field and being with the communities that we truly want to serve and change lives. So what advice do you have to all the budding academics here and students? What should we do to do more with our lives? Because just science alone only does this much. If we didn't have Zackie Achmat and people like you, so many more would have died.
So we wouldn't have listened to the story of, HIV and antiretroviral saving lives. And HIV is the only disease where we have people like Zackie Achmat. I don't see that a lot in TB. I don't see that in hepatitis C. I don't even see that in many of the NCDs. So what advice do you have? We have some, what should we do to kind of, I'm not saying disruption, but I would love to say that. But what is it that we should do more to really change this dynamic? Thank you.
I'm also going to ask indulgence to have at least one young person ask a question. But just to answer Nikki, intellectual dispossession is something suffered across the board. Of course, it affects working class children and working class people the most. Knowledge is social property. It is taken from all our sweat, from all our taxes. It is taken from all our experience. It is taken from our cultural practices. It is taken as labor. It is taken from our bodies through research. Intellectual dispossession of working class children means that they don't know. I shouldn't say that. But someone will know about soccer and Brazil, but they would not be able to point out where Brazil is. Right? Now that is not simply a middle class, working class thing. It is also a middle class thing. And academics are schooled to be ignorant. They are schooled to be ignorant about social problems, about injustices, and so on. And it becomes a comfort zone to ignore that injustice because we're educated. Because we're educated. We've been to Oxford, we've been to Harvard, we've been to Yale, we've been to UCT and Stellenbosch University, and therefore we are educated. But the truth is, middle class and upper class people also have an intellectual disposition. And so the advice I would give first and foremost is to younger people, scholars and academics and so on. Wake up and, like Karl Marx, read The Economist. Wake up every morning and read the Financial Times. It's a British newspaper, but it's very smart. You don't have to, please don't agree with its ideology. But it informs you of many things in the world. Read the New Yorker and the South China Morning Post, the Hindu in India. Find ways of connecting knowledge, and also watch movies, watch dance, and study art, right? And academics make themselves look so boring, when in fact they have the capacity to be the most exciting people, because they have the time to think. And one of the greatest thinkers of the 20th century, no, not Trotsky, definitely Rosa Luxemburg, but certainly also Hannah Arendt, who believed that we are human because we think. And because we think, we have language to empathize. And empathy is a critical factor. What makes us human is thinking and empathizing. And that is not what academics are taught. They are taught, here's the system of science. There's two there.
Hi, Zackie. So I'm part of the Partners in Health Canada McGill chapter, and I guess hearing you talk so much about the younger generation, I really am just wondering, what is the key message that you want us to hear and carry on and share with our peers, and what is the best thing that we can be doing right now to take initiative, because it can be such an overwhelming and daunting task, and kind of feeling like we're such little fish in a big pool, we don't really know where to start. So what would be your best advice to us?
Put away Instagram and TikTok for 10 minutes and have a conversation. And have a conversation that is deliberative and informed with someone next to you. That is critical. That is the start of it. I also think that you need to find ways of overthrowing the systems that exist and inventing your own, whether it's in the struggle for climate justice or any other political struggle. You have to invent that. There are old tools that we have. Montreal and Toronto were important in 1968 to students. Montreal specifically because of its connection to France. You have to find your own 1968 and bring it into this world.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Unfortunately, we have to wrap up. Do we have time for 2 more questions? Very quick, 10 seconds each.
Okay, my question, you kind of already answered part of my question, but I'm from the US, and I know we were talking a lot about fascism today and like what's going on in the US. And I think that what I wanted to say is that we've kind of, all of us in the US, like people of my age and what we're seeing right now, is we're really struggling with that kind of thing that you identified with participatory democracy versus representative democracy. And I feel like people in the US have not been trained to have these kind of like alternative systems or systems of, you know, connection and being able to build alternative systems to the systems that are being completely dismantled right now. A lot of those connections have been broken over the past. We don't have the organizational structures that you obviously joined in South Africa. So I just want to know, like, what is like the first step to getting those actual real systems that can be built upon to do actual activism and change, especially, yeah, I guess that's pretty much it.
Can we get the second question as well?
Yes, and you said the term humility. My name is Sabira, and I greet you. Thank you so much. But how can we humbly produce literature, not just to contribute to the existing body of literature, but to prompt ethical action with academia as a tool?
Oh, bugger. We can sit here the whole time, but I think the 2 questions are linked, and they link to the previous question, and that is that first you have to start with yourself and know what your conscience dictates. And what your conscience dictates might sometimes be wrong. Pete Hegseth has a conscience, apparently. It's important for us to first situate ourselves within ourselves, because that is the best way to relate to other people, to see yourself in them and to see them in you. As academics, I think my colleague Nathan Geffen, he is one of the greatest thinkers. I'll tell you stories about him, but he produced the TAC journal called Equal Treatment. Unfortunately, it's not up on the TAC website. You have to get the SimHub link to it. And he's a computer scientist, but now he edits a community newsletter. And he remains a computer scientist and a mathematician. But he is capable of translating the knowledge he has into plain language. He can be very boring, but ultimately he allows people to be excited about ideas and about practices in his work. And he wrote a book on HIV denialism called Debunking Delusions. And it dealt with the denialism of President Mbeki and the ANC. And it's critical reading to assist. It's not a guide. It can assist in understanding the current anti-science movement.
Thank you so much. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for the Q&A.
May I say one more thing?
Yes.
All right.
I'm a terrible moderator.
Sorry.
Carry on.
After this, I'm going to have another blue eye. Right? I'm a socialist and I'm an internationalist. And I believe in activism and in health activism and in health equity. I cannot leave here tonight in good conscience without speaking about Gaza and the West Bank and Sudan. I have to say that in my lifetime, I've never seen such horror. Never seen such horror. There are no words to describe it. And it didn't start on October the 7th. It started perhaps 120 years before. It started when Europe and North America drove Jewish people into a system of wanting to exterminate Jewish people. And they dumped that on Palestine. And it is our duty to stand with Palestinians, to stand with people in Sudan, to stand with people, the Rohingya in Burma, Myanmar. It is critical. The destruction, you cannot be a public health person if you don't look at the destruction of public health in Gaza, the killing of nurses and doctors, the killing of pharmacists, the killing of journalists, above all, the killing of human beings. I grew up understanding what Ibn Rushd said, Averroes. He lived at the same time as Maimonides, Rambam, as Jewish people called it. And the halakha was coded in Arabic. I'm an atheist, but I believe that people of faith and good conscience have to find each other. And unless we have justice in Palestine, we will not have justice in the world. And unless we recognize the pain of Jewish people, we will not be able to live in this world. So I want to say this, not as a rebuke, but as an invitation to everyone here, that we have a duty, and that duty is to speak, to listen, to organize, to be prepared to lose your degree if your university shuts you up, to go to jail in England where Palestinian protesters are called terrorists. 80-year-old Quakers, for God's sake. Quakers. Terrorists. No, no. Our duty is to learn to love everyone, but to do so in an honest and true fashion. Truth cannot be sacrificed. Truth cannot be sacrificed. And justice is absent in this world, and therefore truth is also absent in the world. And they are interlinked. So let's go out here. Don't forget the woman who doesn't have the right to terminate her pregnancy in the United States, because it's all part of the same inequity and the same injustice. Thank you. I didn't say anything about queers, right? I'm going to be punished afterwards. Thank you.
All right. The last is the very happy announcement of next year's Paul Farmer Award winners. This is such a, can I have the slide, please? This is such an inspiring couple. They are a legend in India. So they were among the many, many, many amazing nominations that the international jury looked through and selected. So this year's Paul Farmer awardees will be Dr. Lalita Reggie and Reggie George. They are a couple, both of them are doctors. For 30 years, they have worked in the most remote part of India, in an indigenous part of India, called Nilgiris in South India. They have built something called the Tribal Health Collective. They built a hospital where none existed. And listen to this. They trained community health workers and helped reduce infant mortality from 147 per 1,000 births to 8 per 1,000 births, with no maternal deaths in 15 years. No maternal deaths in 15 years. They've not only done healthcare work, but they have championed organic farming, women-led cooperatives, local governance. I think they embody everything that Paul would have appreciated in terms of global health equity. It is such an honor to award them with the next award, and they will be here next year, Global Health Night, together. Hopefully the Canadian visa will come through in a year and a half. But we are doing everything possible to bring them here. and it's a great honor to give them next year's award. With that, I'll now invite my school director, Robert Platt, to give his final vote of thanks. Thank you, Robert.
Thanks, Madhu, and good evening, everyone. It's a real pleasure to join you here at my first Global Health Night as Director of the School of Population and Global Health. It's been a really wonderful evening that truly captures the energy, creativity, resilience, and collaborative spirit that defines McGill's Global Health community. We've heard all night about what's going on south of us and the challenges that public health and global health are facing and academia is facing in the US. It's inspiring to me to be part of the community at McGill, the active, resilient, and productive community taking action on global health issues here and around the world. I want to thank Zackie for your powerful Paul Farmer lecture in global health equity. Your words challenged us to think critically about justice, about solidarity, and about the courage it takes to take principled action and the importance of taking action against injustice. I want to recognize the extraordinary work showcased in our poster fair earlier today. I was really inspired by the range of projects from local community health initiatives to global health research partnerships. It was exciting to meet so many of you this evening and to learn about the impactful work being carried out by our students. To our students, I hope tonight has sparked ideas, conversations, and connections that will stay with you as you chart your path in this crazy world and in this field. The world needs your curiosity, your compassion, and your persistence. I want to thank everyone who made this evening such a success. The organizers, the speakers, the donors, and of course all of you for being here with us. I look forward to seeing how this carries the School of Population and Global Health into the year ahead, and to celebrating even more of our accomplishments at next year's Global Health Night. Thank you all for attending, and have a wonderful evening.